We are back with another episode of the Too Legit Show, and we're joined by a very special guest, and he's just been awarded MMA Junkie Coach of the Year. How are you feeling, Tyson?
I'm good, Zach. It's pretty cool. It was unexpected today. It was the last session for Calvin, and then Coach Eric FaceTimed me, and he's like, "Congrats, Coach! You got Coach of the Year." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So I found out from Eric, and then so it's cool. Awards like that are cool because it just shows that the hard work's paying off. But at the end of the day, like that's never the goal. The goal is wins, and January 16th, we got to go get a big win. So these things are cool, but I'll take a win over these things any day. But yeah, I mean, to say that it's not flattering, it'd be a lie. So it's nice to see hard work pay off and get recognized.
Yeah, and a huge congratulations to that. And does it feel extra special that you're sharing it with Eric?
Yeah, I mean, me and Eric, like for the last few years, we've always kind of been friends from afar. It's being a coach isn't easy. It's you deal with a lot of emotions with fighters, and it's good to have a little a fraternity of brothers that you can call and just say, hey, I'm dealing with this. Like, how do you deal with fighters? Or like, how do you deal with this issue or that issue? Or how do you do a camp when it's X, Y, or Z? And just sometimes you feel like you're going insane because, you're in this camp. And when you go into a camp, it's like 8 to 10 weeks. And you start to feel like, oh, man, like, am I doing this right? Because you just see that, certain issues happen. And it's good. I have him on the coaching side, and then I have some other managers that I'm friends with too that help me kind of keep me sane on the management side. So he's been, you know, someone that I've been able to lean on over the last few years, and he's been able to call me for advice, and it's been it's been pretty fruitful for both. It sucked that we had to fight last July against each other, but after the fight, it was over. We took a picture, and at the end of the day, this is a sport, and he's someone I respect tremendously. So I'd rather win it with him than over him because then we both get to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. And I know you're really focused for this fight, obviously in the camp and everything, but does this award kind of give you extra fuel for January the 16th?
I think if anything, it gives me extra pressure, but because we go out and they. I just want any focus off Calvin. It was kind of good today. I was with Calvin when it got announced, and he was happy, and we had a laugh on it. And then I was bougie the rest of the session. I was like, no, I don't have to do that. I'm coach of the year. I'm like, we made a big joke of it. And we were talking about how I'm Fight Island, and he's gonna give me his suite, and I'm gonna get the first class seat, and all that stuff. But
Love that.
no, it's good. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's Calvin's award too. It's
Mm.
all the other coaches' award. Like my name's on the thing, but I don't get things like this if they're not winning. You know, and I like to think they're not winning if I'm not doing my job. So it's very symbiotic. And so anytime they win, I feel like I win. And I remember I did a podcast. I think it was the Schmo Zone, and I said like we have the best jab in the division, and people like roasted me for it. They're like, why is this coach talking like we, like he's the one in there? And I'm like, because it's a team effort. I really feel like when they lose, I try to take the blame. When they win, I try to give them credit. And so it really is like I feel like it is a we. Like we're all spokes on a wheel. The wheel is Calvin's fight, and I'm one of the spokes. Jake, the Muay Thai coach, is a spoke. The wrestling coach. Everybody's got a job, and one person slacks off, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think also you have a great vision, and you can see, especially with Rob and Calvin. I know you have other fighters as well, but it's not you're not trying to be the best guys in New England. You're trying to be the best guys in the world. And do you think now people are starting to notice that?
I mean, you see what Rob Font just did to Marlon
Yeah.
Rice, and it's hard not to notice that. I mean, whether or not he had me with him or not, anybody sees what he just did. He dusted that boy. Um, they're gonna be like, "Ooh, what is he doing?" And I think it took a little while, but people in New England started the benchmark, and then the next thing you know, all the younger guys are trying to train with Rob and do what he does, and then they're kind of, hey, how do you do this? And he's been a leader to a lot of young fighters, and we've been able to try to put a system in play that allows guys like Rob and Calvin to stay in New England with their original coaches and not have to move to like a Florida or a Vegas or an Albuquerque or California. And it's we kind of got laughed at first, but now it's the proof is in the pudding. You got Rob just knocked out the number 3 guy. Calvin earned a fight with the number 1 guy. Um, he's headlining the card on ABC, major network television here in the
Mhm.
States, and um, you got to think that we're doing something that's working. It's you know it's it's very rewarding when you see a plan put into action and then, you know, see the benefits down the road. And then, it's kind of surreal everything that we're doing right now. Sometimes I have to pinch myself because these were things that we talked about a few years ago, and that we were like, oh man, if we could just get that. And I was just saying to my wife, like 3 or 4 years ago, if you would have said, hey, you're going to be the coach of the year, I'd be like, man, that'd be like the coolest thing ever. And like now I got it, and it feels great, but it's almost like a distraction. Now I'm still just focusing on Calvin's fight and flying out tomorrow, and just the next fight. So it's kind of, I guess it's a curse to be as motivated as like me, Rob, and Calvin are, because we're never going to be satisfied. But I don't think we'd get to where we are if we were satisfied.
Yeah, definitely. And who knows, another 3, 4 years time, you could be nominated coach of the decade. So there's always that to look forward to as well. But
Hey, I think the next big one, if we can get team of the year, because we're a small
yeah,
team. I always say that we're the bad news bears of the MMA. We don't have big money backing us. We don't have, a lot of people coming in and supporting the cause. It's we're doing this on our own. We're doing this, I guess say we're balling on a budget, right? It's we're doing big things with little resources, and just trying to make the right decisions. And a bunch of no names now making a name for themselves. So it's been pretty cool. Um, yeah, if we can get team of the year someday, I mean honestly that would mean more to me than coach of the year, because that means everybody's getting the credit. Sorry, my phone just keeps going off. Like everybody
no
just keeps
worries.
messaging me. But yeah, team of the year is next, and then first we're on to Max, and then we'll worry about decades and teams and all that stuff next. But yeah, right now my job is to make sure that everybody packs their passport, Calvin and Rob bring their mouthpieces, and that we all get to the airport on time in the morning.
I mean, yeah, the form's looking great. I mean, they're certainly on track for team of the year. And I know you said you wanted to build that high level team out of New England. And with the COVID rules, do you think that's aided in your goal in operating a high level fight camp without having to leave New England?
Yeah, I mean, we've never really had to leave New England. We'll do training trips just to break it up. Like if we have a 10-week camp, we'll go to the PI for, the 5th or the 6th week just to break it up and kind of get out there, get some TLC. I know last March when we were in the Stevens camp, we went out to right before the pandemic hit. We went to Bazooka Joe's, Joe Valtellini in Toronto. We went there for 4 days with Calvin and with my buddy, my kickboxer that I manage, Ross Levine. And we went up there and we trained with him for 3 or 4 days. And me and him have, become really good friends since then. I talked to him about Calvin's fights. He talks to me about some of his guys' fights. And he's been a really good guy to network with. So I don't mean like we're not going to leave New England to get where. It's that we don't have to. We can go there, we can cross train. But it's like, if we don't leave, we're still getting the good work. So yeah, I mean, I think COVID overall, I don't think it's necessarily aided us. It just hasn't affected us.
Hmm.
It's kind of cut out the bullshit, trim the fat a little bit. It's now where it forced us to really buckle down and say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Like when the pandemic hit and every gym closed to us, honestly, I have a pretty good network. Within 3 hours, I had a new schedule set for Calvin for UFC 249 in the Jeremy Stevens fight. And I was like, here's what we're going to do. We pivoted and we made it happen, and we were able to do it. And I think because we're such a small team, we were able to get that done with little to no effect on us. But I think of what you've seen is there's been a little bit of a paradigm shift in how people are training MMA now. A lot of these coaches were forced to get in these little tiny groups or cohorts or bubbles, whatever you want to call them. And I think the fighters are seeing like, wow, I learned so much more with all this extra attention and without a room full of killers around me, distracting the coaches. Now that I got to coach in a garage with just me for 2 hours, look how much more you're going to learn. So I think the light bulb's gone off a little bit for some teams, and you're starting to see the training a little bit differently. And I got guys like Dean Thomas that are kind of doing things differently, and this is what we've been doing for years. So it's interesting to see other teams finally starting to see merit or value in it. It's more of like the boxing style.
Hmm. Yeah, no, and I mean, it's working well at the moment. And I do want to talk about Calvin. Obviously, he's fighting soon. And how's he been looking over Christmas? And what's one thing that you've really, really focused on in this camp for Max?
Yeah, no, it's just there was no Christmas. We were doing our last strength and
Hmm.
conditioning session today, and I was like, you know, trying to motivate him, like, listen, like, you didn't get a Christmas for this. Like, this guy, you're working harder than he is, type thing. And there was no Christmas. There was no years. Every day was a training day. We trained every day. Christmas Day, we were at the gym at 9 p.m. That way I could be with my kids in the morning. And then we went at 9 p.m. and we trained for 2.5 hours. Um, that's what it's been. It's been like a little bit of family time, but all training. We didn't skip a beat. Really, the big focus is just getting them mentally prepared, getting them in shape, working on a few things that we want to see come out in the fight, avoid a few things in the fight, and then just get them mentally ready for that fight. It's you don't have to get Calvin to work hard. He's going to be in the gym. He's going to work hard. He's going to listen. If anything, you have to kind of pull him back a little bit and protect him from himself, because he's such a driven and determined athlete that he always wants to just keep going. And it's our job as coaches to try to pull him back sometimes and know when to maybe put our foot on the brakes and take care of our weapons.
And is it correct? I think I did see this somewhere. So forgive me if I'm wrong, but is it correct that you met Calvin on the set of Here Comes the Boom?
Yeah, so I knew who he was already, just because he was like the best 45er in the Northeast for a long time, and everybody kind of knew who he was or whatever. But then on the set Here Comes the Boom, they had probably 20 of us local fighters that were just sitting
Wow.
cage side during the final fight scene in Lowell, Mass, at the Songus Arena, and he was there, and we weren't sitting on the same side of the cage. I was sitting where like the cut man would be, where you'd get greased. I was kind of there, and then on the other side where you'd see like a lot of the VIP Dana's people sit. He was sitting over there, but like we had all these breaks, and we got to talking, and I was like, I really like him. We took a couple pictures, and then fast forward a couple years, and everybody wanted him and Rob to fight, and I didn't let it happen, because I'm like, no, dude, Calvin's a good dude. I want him to go to the UFC. If anything, Rob, you should be training with Calvin, because you guys can both push each other. And fast forward 9 years, and I look like a genius now, right?
Exactly. Obviously that was a decent film as well. But I want to know, what's your favorite film that involves fighting?
I mean, this isn't like MMA, but like when I was fighting every night after weigh-ins, I would watch Gladiator with Russell
Really?
Crowe. Yeah, it was a great movie, and I was doing it like religiously, like probably my first 8, 9 fights, and then I kind of got off of it. And but yeah, that used to be the movie I'd watch before every fight, and I think it's pretty. I don't know, man. It just got me in the right mode, and just it's long. It's about fighting, but it's about like mental toughness. I don't know. I just probably yeah. I mean, most of the MMA movies that you see are kind of stupid, so I
Yeah.
usually don't even really watch them. But I'd have to say Gladiator.
Yeah, fair enough. For me, it's for me, it's Warrior. Tom Hardy in that absolute beast, and I don't know how you'd coach prepare against him, because he was an absolute animal in that.
Didn't he like beat up his brother in that movie?
Yeah, yeah. In the fire, they
Yeah,
had it. They drew exactly in the final one, and I think he broke his arm or something. So
yeah,
no
yeah.
coaching team in that. So he could have. He needed you in that clearly to win.
Yeah, Tom
But
Hardy's a beast of an actor. I always like his movies.
exactly, and obviously looking on this fight, looking at Calvin's opponent Max, I want to know what your thoughts on Max's second fight against Volkanovski was, and how you've looked at that fight and used that for Calvin's training.
So when we originally saw that fight, we were training in our hotel room in Abu Dhabi, because we were fighting 4 days after. Or
Mm.
one, two, yeah, 4 days after. Um, and I thought Max got robbed. But then as I went back and studied film for this fight, I'm like, all right, I guess it wasn't that big of a robbery. You really could argue either way. I think it was close enough where you can't say anybody got robbed. But I do think you could argue that Max won. So for Max, if you're on Max's team, you could be like, oh, we got robbed. It's like, okay. But yeah, I just saw, Max, it's almost like he took his foot off the gas pedal after the second round. It's almost,
Mm.
I look at it as it's not so much that Alex won. Like, no discredit to the champ. Like, he obviously won the fight, but I think it was more about what Max stopped doing than it was that adjustments that Alex made. But that's kudos to Alex. He forced him to stop doing what he was doing, I guess you could argue. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But I really think it's almost like he thought he won the third round maybe, and then just kind of cruised in the fourth and the fifth type thing. And yeah, it didn't pan out for him.
So with that knowledge, and obviously, so if Calvin beats Max, would it be fair to assume that you could arguably say that Calvin is the champion as he beat the champion, and from there looking onwards, would it only be fair if Calvin was in title contention for his next fight?
Yeah, I mean, right now they're saying that Ortega's going to get the next shot, but you know how it goes. Like, if we go out there
Mm.
and we starch Max right away, like maybe we leapfrog, and like maybe you'll say, sorry, Brian, this guy's special. We want to see this fight, or maybe we wait. But I don't. The one thing I'm pretty confident in is that if we beat Max Holloway, we 100% at the latest get a title shot after Ortega fights. I don't see a scenario where Zabit would go in front of us just because he beat us a year ago, and that would be 3 wins ago. Now we've gone to beat 3 ranked opponents, one being Max Holloway, one being Jeremy Stevens, and another one being Dan Ige. And I think there was a lot of controversy surrounding the Zabit fight because it was only 3 rounds. So, yeah, politicians are going to do what politicians do, though. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very, very interesting to watch. And do you think it's sort of kind of, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but somewhat a bit not really fair on Calvin that, Ortega hadn't fought in 2 years and he has a win over Zombie, which is good, but then that puts him right in essentially leapfrogging Calvin.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter what's fair for Calvin, right? It's he was technically ranked above us the whole time. He went and beat a guy, so he's the next guy. They didn't want to do the trilogy. He's the highest ranked guy there, so he gets the next shot because who knows what's going to happen with Max and Calvin or Zabit and Yair and all those guys. So he's the next likely guy that makes sense, right? It's a logical choice. But yeah, what's fair and what isn't fair doesn't really hold too much water because if you're going to cry about what's fair, you're generally going to be distracted from what you can control. And if we had a team motto, it's focus on what you can control. The only thing we can control right now is getting ready to try to take out the GOAT on January 16th and then let the cards fall how they do.
Yeah. And also, I just want to ask one question on Rob Font. He's been talked about a return fight for TJ Dillashaw. Regardless of whether he fights TJ or not, what's in your eyes the best turnaround time for him?
Honestly, I'd say March probably makes the most sense because he's going to be out on Fight Island with us with Calvin. So he flies out tomorrow. We don't get back till the 22nd. So it's he's going to train out there, but it's not the same, right? We can be diligent and, we can get some work in, but it's not the same as being home and in camp. So we get back at the end of January, then he'd have, 5-6 weeks to jump into a card on March. But the issue right now is everybody's booked. It looks like Dillashaw is probably going to get Aldo. Who knows what Cody Garbrandt doing? That's kind of the only wild card out there. If Cody Garbrandt's going to go drop down or if he's even healthy from the COVID scare, hopefully he's healthy because we'd love to fight him. I think that would be a good scrap. He's a super talented guy. He brings tremendous power and some new athleticism and quick. He's obviously got quick hands, but now he's got a little bit of brain behind him with Mark Henry. So that'd be a challenge I'd love to do is sit across the cage and try to outsmart Mark Henry and use Rob against Cody. I think that would be a good challenge. I think that's a challenge Rob would rise up for, just like he did against Rice.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking forward to see what Rob's doing as well as Calvin. And also, speaking of those 2 fighters as well, where you're from, New England, the brand Cartel, which I see a rep in, it's looking good. I'm loving the hat. And I've got to know, with the merch, what's your favorite bit of merch of Cartel?
I'd say this hat, or we get these. We did a collab with the label that they had some pretty cool sweatshirts. Those are nice. But yeah, if you just go to the NewEnglandCartel.com, we got a bunch of different options. I think we have a shirt that says almost like the Run DMC. It says Cartel. That's pretty cool. People like that. And then people really like the sweatpants. I say they're pretty comfortable. I wear them almost every day, so it's pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's a cool looking logo. I think it kind of resonates with a lot of people of they're a bunch of good dudes that are got kind of a badass name and they're going to go beat people up for fun and money. And I think it's like an underdog story where the Bad News Bears at MMA. We're small, low budget, and we're going against the Globo gyms of the world and kicking ass. So it's people like that.
Yeah, I love it. And I've got to know, for me, final question is, obviously, as you can tell by the accent, I'm from England. So whenever I look up America, I really get confused about what New England is, whether it's a state or a place. So I just want to know, I just want you to tell me about New England if you can, and what's just the best thing to do there if I were to come.
It's New England's I think it's 6 states. Was it Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Mass, Rhode Island, Connecticut? Yes, 6 states. It's just up here in the northeast of the United States, bordering New York and yeah, I would say it's New York because New York cuts off to the ocean. So yeah, so borders New York and then Canada. Yeah, I mean, in the fall, we get a lot of people that come here for the fall to see the leaves change, the foliage. They go up northern New Hampshire, they watch the leaves change. They have a bunch of pretty colors. In the winter, a bunch of skiing, and then in the summer, we got the ocean. So you can kind of do everything all 3 seasons. It's you got to be okay with the cold, because in the winter it gets
Of
really
course.
cold, in the summer it gets really humid, and we can get some bad storms. So it's just you can do everything. And I think the thing that makes New England very unique compared to the rest of the United States is like we don't really care about college sports or university like you guys would say. Um, you go down south and it's like college football is the biggest thing. It's like college football is the most important thing. Their whole life they're supporting the university football team. But up in the Northeast, we could care less about college sports. Like I remember
No.
back when I was in, I think, college, BC football was ranked number like 1 or 2 for a couple weeks. And you could go on the game day and buy like a ticket and just walk in. Nobody cared. And but the Patriots, those will be sold out every day. The Red Sox sold out, Bruins and Celtics. So, that's where, Patriots didn't do that well this year, but, we're trying to give them something. The playoffs are this week. We're not in it. So we're telling everybody that next week you get some playoff fighting. We got this is the AFC championship for us. We're trying to get to that Super Bowl, the title fight.
Yeah. Well, I would love to see a Calvin Kattar and Rob Font headliner at Gillette Stadium. I think that'd be pretty epic.
That would be
That's
awesome. That'd be, you know, Calvin. One of Calvin's bucket list items was to fight in the Garden, and he was able to do that against Shane
mm,
Burgos and get knockout of the night. And I think if we could do something like that, like fight at Gillette Stadium, I think that would be cross that off the bucket list. Although I heard that they're taking the Coliseum in Italy, or where's that, Rome or
really
whatever it is.
Rome.
Yeah, they're gonna redo the floor of it and then possibly do some live sporting events there. So can
That
you
would be
imagine a UFC
insane.
at the Coliseum?
Or
Headline that one. That would be freaking epic. Just to say that you walked out on the Coliseum floor and like
proper
fought
Roman
like
fighting style.
yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Exactly. You could beat someone up and then a lion comes out. So
There you go.
exactly. But is there anything? The floor is yours. If you want to shout out anything, link your merch. Then the floor is yours.
Yeah, if you look me up on Instagram, it's just Tyson_Chartier or NE Cartel MMA. Both of those have the New England Cartel link in the bio where you can buy merch. Um, yeah, give us a follow on there. I'm staying pretty active with what's going. Especially we're gonna go to Fight Island next week or tomorrow, and then we'll get there Saturday. I'll be pretty active on social media, so you can kind of see what the journey's like. We'll be trying to do a bunch of vlogs and stuff like that. And I appreciate everybody that my phone's like you said, been going off the whole time. I don't have time to get back to everybody and say thank you, but just individual awards really aren't what motivate me. But I appreciate everybody reaching out and saying thank you or saying congratulations and whatever. And basically all of New England, we just keep rallying around us. We're gonna keep trying to push forward and bring a title back to New England for the first time ever.